It's always difficult to talk about a performance when you've just done it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave you alone for that. So I'd like to start in the past and the future at exactly the same time. You tell me that this building has never been christened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I started doing research for the show here, because one of my particular interests is architecture and history kind of combined, and whenever you have a new building, you obviously have your foundation stone, which is the starting point for the building, which then the rest can kind of be built around it. And also, whenever you reach a point where the building is sort of finished, then you have a point where it's kind of a topping off ceremony as well, so kind of a celebration that the building has been successful. So whenever I was doing the research, I discovered that there hadn't been a topping off ceremony, particularly because the building itself, whenever the Siobhan Davies became Siobhan Davies in 2006, it used to be an old school building, so it's kind of the new became kind of the old had to submit in a way to the new.
So it's never been christened?
No.
And it's never been finished?
Yeah.
So it's never been begun properly?
Yeah.
And it's never been ended? And do you feel this is glorious, or does it upset you that there's no ritual?
I think it's unfair for the building, really.
Okay.
So as part of a piece of work, I kind of want to explore this, and I'm currently in the process of working with Sarah Wigglesworth, who is the architect who did the renovations in the building, to sort of resolve
Sarah
this.
Here today?
No.
Okay. So this is now a campaign to finish this building off.
Yeah.
And I think with the performance with the Naked Flame, it was very possible that you could finish the building off here and now. But
Yeah.
so, I mean, would you build a foundation stone as well as a topping off?
Because originally I considered kind of, because foundation stones is something that I've been really interested in. And I think the fact that there's no kind of visible foundation stone for a start on the building, which is sort of, because the school next door, it has sort of celebration stones and kind of dates whenever it's been added to or enlarged, because I think it's enlarged in 1886 and then again in 1894, I think. But there hasn't, on this part of the building, there's nothing kind of visual like that says that any of those building points have kind of taken part. So one of the original things that we discussed was possibly digging down into the tarmac outside to find the foundations of the building, and then somehow kind of do something with that. But it's also about this point of maybe confusion as well, because it isn't really a foundation stone because the building's already here.
Right.
As such, so
okay, you can't. I'm really ignorant about these things. You can't slide in a foundation stone.
Not literally, but that was the sort of thought process that we might be able to do that.
Because every day I walk past the Henry Irvine foundation stone, which is in, they're doing up the park in Brixton, and there's a stone. And it's for the Brixton Theatre and Opera House. So Brixton actually did have an opera house for 40 years until it was bombed. And now there's no building, but there's this foundation stone
that remains,
without a building. It's almost like somehow they should meet. You have a proposed site, don't you?
Yeah, because we've looked at kind of various points in the building where, the old building meets the new building and kind of where things might. So the old building basically submits to the new building, and so that this image behind, which is actually just outside the door. Whenever you came in, it's like a little ledge that's sort of about seat height, but that's the original building coming into the new building, and so we're discussing using that, particularly because it's at the top of the building as well.
And what thoughts have you for this?
Well, because I've been kind of very interested in stones that have things written on them, so kind of like this building was erected in whatever date, and this stone was laid by such and such a person on such and such a date. That kind of process of removal is something that I'm kind of interested in engraving into an actual physical stone. So one of the proposals at the minute that we're discussing is doing some kind of engraving or something on that point. So it's removing something that's of the old.
And how does Sarah feel that her building's never been topped off?
She kind of, whenever I mentioned it, she was like, "Oh yeah, but we haven't done that." And she said, because obviously there were so many people involved in the building of the building, and she really kind of is keen to let those people be part of it as well. So yeah, and I think she's quite interested in this idea of like ceremony and having drinks and kind of doing it in the way that you should do it as an architect.
I mean, I much of your work involves the ritual, and on the 19th you did a performance. Maybe just have a few moments of that performance on the 19th. I don't know if any of you were here on the 19th. I certainly wasn't. This is the 11th floor of the LCC building, which is literally, if we knock down this wall here, you would see this building. It wasn't an option for tonight. And there's a piece downstairs called the Blind Building. Blind Building, not the Blind Building. Okay, not the Blind Building, which was made in Belfast.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the videos, everybody, but the difference between that and this is that there's no music.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
The music comes much, much later when the piece becomes a video. So this is not quite a work yet, is it?
No, it's not. So this is only kind of 3 or 4 minutes of the full kind of event that happened on the private view. So on the 19th it was about, I think the full video is about 12 to 13 minutes long. And I plan to, in a similar way that I've done with the video downstairs, to work with a musician to compose something in response to the video.
In the video that's downstairs, this beauty of the long building, and although at the end it says the Muir Building, Belfast, it fortunately doesn't tell me what this building actually was. And I kind of look through the windows and I kind of see Robin Day type chairs, and there's that a fridge on the back. And I know this is not a home, but I would love to live there, kind of Corbusier or Mies van der Rohe pavilion type, beautiful kind of building. And a number of things I notice about the piece is the sensuality of the piece in the way that the curtains come across and then they tap like this.
Yeah.
And the count that the piece has, the rhythm that the piece has. And you work particularly with a very strict count when you do these things.
Yeah, it's to the count of 4.
Count to 4?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was this one done?
This one is so there's 5 windows on that particular side of the building, and that's if you haven't seen if you didn't see it on the 19th, this is the side that's directly facing this building, and there's 2 curtains for each window, so I had 10 performers inside activating the curtains, but I composed the count is the count of 4, and then I have downstairs there's a little booklet which has the composition in it, which I've written. So that was written prior to the performance.
Right. And but you were here, not there.
No.
So you're the composer, you're not the performer.
No.
In this situation.
Mm-hmm.
When it's interesting because the piece downstairs, Blind Building.
Mm-hmm.
This is Blind Building. The video, that was Blind Building, the performance, and then this is going to be made into a film
which is still
as
going
well.
to be Blind Building.
And it's still Blind Building. There's no Blind Building 2 or differentiating between the video and the performance. And yet the difference is, it seems, is that you put music on the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
How does that come about?
Which choosing the performer or the musician?
All of it. I mean, how do you go about putting sound onto something? Do you have sound in your head when you're working on a piece?
I knew vaguely what I kind of things that I had in mind for this. So, for example, for the one downstairs, I worked with a musician called Eleanor Wynne Davis, and I had her in mind for the piece. Once I had made the video, and then I talked to her about it, but I didn't exactly tell her what I wanted. I very much wanted it to be her working in response. I told her what I didn't want.
Right.
And
how long did that take?
So a couple of months.
A couple of months to tell me.
Oh right.
What
Well,
you
no,
didn't
I left it
Right.
in her hands,
Yeah.
and then it was over a couple of conversations. So there was a bit,
and then what happens is
so then she sent me the sound, and then I put it together. So again, it was me kind of readjusting to where she had laid.
Because the performance begins, the video begins as a performance. You see the
Performers coming on.
Yeah, the figures coming up, which I didn't notice the first time I saw it. I'm looking at a building and the trees and trying to work out where it is. And then I see, when I looked at it properly, I see 2 figures coming through. And then the curtains open. And the sound isn't there at that particular time. The sound actually starts, as I remember rightly, just before
I think
the thing
it's about
opens.
36 seconds.
36 seconds.
Roughly. Yeah.
So, first of all, I think I'm looking at something that's going to be like big architecture type video.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next thing that kind of happens with the sound is the sound sounds like the bow hits the strings like this, which is then when the curtains are starting to do this kind of motion. And then there are some times when the sound doesn't stay with the count of the things, and it goes on, but yet there's this so it's almost like a kind of counterbeat to that. At any point, do you edit that? Do you kind of say that needs to be firmer here, or,
No,
or you let that kind of go
Yeah.
in the piece? Were you pleased with it?
Yeah. I mean, what was really exciting for me was not knowing what it was going to be either. So for me, that was kind of very much of the exchange and the process of it as well. So.
And so with the music for this, you will choose the musician.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll work in a similar
negotiate to get the
Yeah.
musician.
But I think because it's a different Blind Building, I'd be quite keen to work with a different musician.
Right.
So it's a completely new response on it as well.
How do you tell Eleanor that she's been dumped for the second one?
I haven't told her yet.
You haven't told her.
But
Okay.
she hasn't really been dumped though.
No, I know that, but it's always kind of difficult. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, but we're going to use another piece of music. And I mean, like I said, I peer through the windows, And what is interesting about buildings when they appear on film and television, particularly, I cannot watch a film made in London now because I'm always looking out the window. I watch, I don't know if any of you've seen that Hustle programme.
No.
It's filmed along the South Bank, and they're always sort of got windows.
Because then you can figure out where things are.
Yeah.
And stuff. Yeah.
And I'm kind of thinking, oh, this must be between the Oxford Tower and the whatever, because of the things that are pointing through the windows. And I tried to put the city, I can't remember what the story's about, because I'm still trying to put the city together. And then I realised that actually they're looking at Tower Hill, which means it's a back projection.
Yeah.
So some of the times, they've made a studio, and I was completely upset after being irritated by this, that trying to locate which floor this kind of building was kind of being put onto. This is your turf, now, because you live,
Not far from.
about 200 yards away from this building and this. So this is your arena. Was that a building that you thought, I'm going to use for this? Or was it a building that you knew that you had as a resource once you were here?
Probably a mixture. Whenever I first thought of whenever I had the first ideas for Blind Building, I had in mind a different building that I was going to work with. And I was going to there's the Palestra building, which is quite near, it's on Blackfriars Road. It kind of overhangs the road a little bit, looks like it's going to fall into it. But because I live quite close to that building, that was something that was very much in my as it was being built up, I saw it being built, and so gradually people inhabiting that space. And they have these, because the building's quite bright and it's got loads of windows, and they have these blinds and they open and close them every day at night time. I think it's partly to do with residents and the security and people, light pollution and everything. But it's still like a Christmas tree anyway, even though they've got these blinds, so they don't really do a good job. So originally I'd actually been in negotiation to do the piece there. And so I originally proposed it, and they have various people that the offices are let out to, so lots of different organisations. So I was talking to the LDA and whoever, and it was all fine. And then suddenly the building manager was like, "No, health and safety, can't do it." So it was 3 months that I had tried to do that, and then wasn't able to. But I still wanted to realise it somewhere. And when I came here and saw the building, was actually in conversation with Frank, but we were chatting about the fact that the possibility of maybe using this building. And bizarrely, you can actually there's a completely clear view of only that building from the floor below here, from the window. And even though there's a really tall, horrible building going up beside it, you can't see that. Although everywhere else in London, you can see that building.
In when Mies van der Rohe built the I'm going to have a word blindness now. The Seagram building in New York.
Yeah.
It only had one light switch.
So it turned everything on at the same time.
Yeah. So the building was built so that it either lit up or it didn't. So all the light came, and then the oil crisis. And then they had to put light switches on everywhere. So at one time when these buildings were being thought about, they all thought about as glass pillars of things. It's kind of interesting now that, particularly when this opens and closes, the kind of shapes and faces that it makes. And we start to dream with the building in the sense. I'd like to ask you about a simultaneous project that you're doing elsewhere, because I'd like to bring out this thing about making and the way that you make things. And this is in Mechelen, isn't it?
Mechelen, yeah.
Mechelen.
In Belgium.
In Belgium. And maybe see some images of it. The thing. obviously I've not seen this.
No.
Okay. This is... Where in the building is this?
Okay, so it's in the Museum van Boeselen, I think it is. It's like, I can never really pronounce it properly. I think Flemish words are quite difficult to pronounce. But it's basically the big museum that's in Mechelen, which I talk a little bit about the history, is probably quite useful. So basically this is the last exhibition that's going to be in the museum before it closes at the end of April. And then it's going to be redeveloped, well, made into a bigger and better museum perhaps. But so this piece, which is the arch, is just at the front door whenever you walk in, underneath an arch.
Okay. But they're London bricks.
But yeah. So I spent pretty much most of last year collecting bricks from all over London, and then I drove them to Belgium.
And maybe see the drawing, which might have to jump a bit.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Number 5.
I'm just going to that one.
These are the places that they come from. Is that Blackfriars Road or?
Yeah, Blackfriars Road.
This
I
is
got 40 bricks actually from Blackfriars Road. But,
40?
Yeah.
But there's not 40 bricks in the arch?
No, but the rest they're all in Belgium still.
Okay.
But,
okay, so there might be more arches. Because coming to this thing about making, you go to all these sites to take your bricks, and you have to negotiate those because it's not a question of you raiding skips or things out. Sometimes you've actually physically taken them out of a wall, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one in Hackney, I think was. But it's all from buildings that have been demolished, or buildings that are being demolished.
Okay. Because you subscribe to Construction Weekly, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the recommendation of this guy called Mark, who he is the person that's in the picture before.
Show me.
That's Mark, so he basically, because of the Olympics, they're demolishing a lot of buildings around London Bridge and Borough Market, and I think I met Mark in last August, September time, and he was kind of travelling to lots of various sites kind of around there. But he was kind of fascinated about why I was doing this, and I was like, yeah, you're going to take them to Belgium and they're going to build an arch. And so I've sent him a picture of the arch, but yeah, he was the person that told me to get Construction Weekly.
So and Construction Weekly is like Deconstruction Weekly, isn't it? Because it.
But it also has all the things that are being demolished as well, so it's kind of. Yeah.
So, coming to this thing, and if we can go to the image of the brick thing, because I was quite shocked by it, because you were telling me that you were taking 40 bricks from one place and 40 bricks from another place and 10 bricks from another kind of place, and then you make the tiniest arch possible. I mean, the minimum amount of bricks that would make an arch, and it be counted as an arch, not a hump.
Yeah.
And you leave all the other kind of bricks, and it's very interesting in everything that you do. You do the absolute minimum, the most economical way of doing something. So if you strike a match, you strike a match, you strike a match, and it's evident that you're striking as many matches as there are in the box, and nothing else kind of happens to that. And when you build the arch, because I've seen other pieces of yours
brick related,
and you are a really good bricklayer. I mean, you really know how to do it, and yet this one is made with such economy. It's very, very crudely kind of put together. I mean, if we could go back to an image of it, maybe it being made, I think.
Yeah.
But it is the fastest possible way of actually kind of building something, although actually saying that...
It wasn't that quick, though.
No, but I mean, it's kind of... it is the minimum amount you need to kind of build that kind of thing without it just being a stand. It's got walls and it's got the things, and obviously that's What is that?
So it's a paint bucket. The white circle is a paint bucket, and then there's a bit of cardboard around it. The cardboard actually was one of the boxes that some of the bricks came over in, and then the rest of the bricks, or some of the bricks.
Okay. And how long did you have to build it?
I left here on the Tuesday, started building on the Wednesday, and I finished on the Friday. Well, I took the centre out on the Friday because the mortar had the set on the inside. So, but I hand mix all the mortar as well. And
coming back to this, so did you hand mix in the gallery?
Yeah, it was really funny though, because basically the exhibition, it was kind of quite odd, because the whole sort of thing with the exhibition is that it was parts of the old collection kind of responding to the new collection, and my work didn't really respond to any particular pieces. I was kind of focusing more on the museum, because it was
the building.
Yeah, the building itself. And so it was kind of, the museum decided it was not the curators, but the museum thought it's going to be a really good idea. They're basically being sponsored by a paint company, so they repainted the entire museum. Apparently they've been doing it for about 2 months or something beforehand, as well as still right up to the day that it opened. So they had a massive, because it's quite a big building, so they had a massive team of people, all these big strong guys, but they were all painting the walls. And so I think they were kind of all around me painting, but I was mixing with my big shovel.
Did they know that?
Yeah, they were watching me. I don't think they could understand why I was doing that.
Right.
So it's quite difficult to explain, because I didn't. Yeah, my Flemish is a bit dodgy.
What does it say at the bottom?
I'm not sure, but that appeared on the Friday morning. I think it means don't move or something like that. Because maybe people they didn't really know whether or not it was to be moved outside or. No, I don't know.
Okay. Did you keep
but
that?
I think it says don't move.
But you didn't keep that in on the final piece?
No.
Okay. Good.
Mainly because I didn't really know what I said. It doesn't. If anybody knows Flemish and can translate it, it'd be good.
When you make things, do you start with a lot? Obviously, a lot of bricks you start with. But when you provoke a piece of work into existence, do you start with lots of different things and then strip them down to the one thing you can't take away?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that it's only leaving really the essential. So to Belgium I took about 80 bricks maybe, and they were all unpackaged up. And so whenever I got there, I unpackaged them all. It was quite exciting. It was like Christmas, because I didn't write on the outside what any of them were. They were just these like bundles of bricks, and then there was paper inside them. So I opened them all up and then used only what I needed to use.
Okay. And you visit bricks, don't you? I mean, you visit walls.
Yeah.
You do pilgrimages to, quite literally, to the Wailing Wall to look at the wall.
Yeah.
And you take yourself off to do that. And this morning you won a scholarship, didn't you, to look at more walls?
Yeah.
From the Churchill thing.
Yeah, from the Churchill Memorial Trust. So I'm going to go to look at, so I'm going to go and look at some walls in Europe and China.
And he built walls?
Churchill did, yeah. He was, Winston Churchill was one of his hobbies was bricklaying, and he's actually built a wall, I think it's just in Kent, but where he grew up. And actually one of the people who was on the panel was like, I was talking about it, he's like, that's where I was born, and so I'm going to make a pilgrimage to the wall now.
Oh, you have to.
I have.
Kind of say thank you. I understand that wall's for no reason.
Yeah.
It's
just because he enjoyed, and it's made of red bricks.
Yeah.
But it was just because he enjoyed. There's a great photograph actually of him with his like the trial and him kind of with his cigar hanging out his mouth.
I mean, I just think that's extraordinary that this wall was built for no reason. Usually people build a shed or an outhouse or kind of something to keep the dog kind of warm or something like that. But this is a stable, anything. But here, he built it for no reason. He built art, kind of sort of stuff. I'd like to talk about Flaming Fusey, kind of now. And again, the nature of the pace at which you did something. Like, it was, again, I thought perhaps, knowing that you were going to do the piece and having heard of the piece before, although again I didn't see it, I kind of imagined that you would kind of like that. And it's like you do it to the quickest time that is possible. And when the thing kind of fails, you kind of keep going. So there's a kind of sense of urgency. But as the piece went on, I found myself getting calmer and calmer and calmer to this. So there's a kind of, not frantic, but the least amount of time that it takes without rushing to kind of do this. And to do this. The count in your work seems to be really, really important, the kind of pace of which pieces of work kind of come about. Do you work that out through pieces, or do you have some idea of thinking about count and stuff?
I think it comes as a result of me working with materials or working within a situation to kind of resolve that. It's not something that I pre-plan, except for blind building, which is always going to be counting to 4.
Yes, in the things. I mean, I'm reluctant to kind of talk about this in the thing of here, because there's always some that's going to mention kind of dance or kind of things. But I was startled to discover that Fred Astaire, like Merce Cunningham, composed his dances without music and without any idea that the music was going to be in them. And the music, so he would work on the dance, then work out what the time was going to be. And then they would invite musicians to either adapt a piece of music or write a piece of music for the dance. The dance was actually finished in its entirety before the music was added.
And you don't know how long that process took, or anything?
9 weeks for a dance.
Wow.
It kind of took. And then Ginger came in the last 3 days and had to learn it.
Did he work with different musicians each time? Or?
Yeah, and or musicians if they were adapting a kind of like a piece.
Do you know if he did the dance himself completely, or did he wrote the dance? And
he worked on the dance and worked on the kind of count throughout working on the dance and things. And it's very interesting how your works are mute to begin with, and then they become this thing with kind of sounds. And I find that extremely interesting. The other thing is this thing of looking into history. So you've always started with the past, and that piece was originally for Bow, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Flaming Fusey piece, I first performed it in Bow, and the kind of concept behind the piece was to do with basically where Bow Arts Trust is. It's very close to Fairfield Road, which is where the Bryant and May match factory was. So I kind of did a lot of research, firstly into the area, and then I kind of discovered about the Match Girls and the Match Girls strike, and so that piece was very much in relation to that. And the factory now is a housing development, bizarrely, as well. So, and then the Flaming Fusey, it was a all-weather match.
All
weather.
It's phosphorus.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're working with phosphorus. Okay. Do they still make all-weather matches any longer?
I don't think they can, but not that I know of. I haven't come across them. Maybe they do.
No, I wondered if the military had a way of kind of using them or something like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one? Have you ever struck one?
No.
Okay.
No. Have you?
No. It's I want to.
No,
I want to kind of see. Like, I mean, what actually happens and how do you
extinguish it? As well?
kind of sort of stuff, or kind of blowing it out. I guess you can blow it out. It's just
maybe a little bit harder, because I suppose it was designed for so that it would resist the wind and rain.
Water.
Yeah.
Because I always remember seeing those kind of Second World War films, in the kind of like they would go up onto the deck and there'd be water slathered against it, and some guy could go like that, and they'd light a cigarette. And I can't do that at all in a bus stop. Kind of always try to practice kind of doing that when I was kind of like smoking, and you smoke as well. I wanted to kind of move this on again to the thing about Do you not ever get nervous when you've stripped your work away to the bare minimum? And you say, I mean, I don't know what you proposed here, but I'm going to do a performance where I strike matches until they go. And that's it. When you strip it down to the bare minimum, how do you keep your nerve with the minimum?
I think it's about me setting some rules to a certain extent. Some that kind of, so I can kind of have a basic structure of how the work will be, and then within that I can move within that structure, if that makes sense. So each match, for example, is different. Some of them don't really light very well, but that's okay. So that's kind of part. So so I set the structure, and then.
So it's like this thing where the nuances become like the way that the figures move at the back of the curtains, and the way that the curtains move, and the way that the leaves move. Did you have to kind of pay attention to the lighting of your face and to the sounds of something kind of dropping? And because they're the things I found very special about the Flaming Fusee. Was this thing of although unmiked, you could hear the matches fall and the kind of the crispness, and each time that your face was kind of lit, and how you did not look like the Laura Wilson who was sitting kind of here when you do that. Have you ever seen the piece?
I have tried filming it, but it was my camera didn't really react very well to the kind of darkness and lightness. So I have kind of seen it, but not. I haven't seen anyone else perform it because no one else has kind of performed it. But,
okay.
So
I mean, that is always the dilemma of performances, that you miss it. And the thing about camera misbehaving, you actually take advantage of that downstairs in the piece that's in the kitchenette type kitchen area, where I know you kind of get flack for that piece because people say, that wouldn't happen if you use this kind of camera.
High definition camera or what, but I think for me it's kind of it's part of it that the camera's kind of struggling to do what it's supposed to do.
It's generally made with the camera, so the camera kind of makes the piece, and particularly, you're also at the mercy of the projector, I imagine.
Yeah.
Or are you one of those artists that chooses 12 projectors and then chooses the best one?
No, I just have one projector. I just worked with the one projector for that one.
Your projector?
No, it was from here. So.
Okay, so
yeah.
I know that sometimes it can do that. In this day and age, many artists, too many, I believe, would have employed a brickie. You never do that.
No, I quite enjoy the fact that it is quite hard work actually, like mixing up the mortar, and but I think even though it is quite small and for me it almost wouldn't be the same thing. It's not that I'm doing it as a performance necessarily, but it becomes part of the work that I'm.
And now that you've become good at making things.
Yeah, this is the first time I've made an arch.
Yeah, I know that. But now you become good at things. But do you still have I don't know how to say this, a rubbish way of making things?
Yeah, I think that's probably not if an actually real bricklayer saw that, they're probably, because it's not 100% accurate.
It seems to be a way that you make things, though. I mean, you use broken glass, and then file it so the broken glass doesn't cut anybody.
Yeah.
It's not like get another piece of glass. It's like take a piece of broken glass and then spend hours sanding this piece of glass, or whatever you do with pieces of glass.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to cut anybody unless they walk into the side of it. And then you awkwardly hang the pieces of glass downstairs. And they belong to the building as well, don't they? They come from...
Which the glass, the glass didn't come.
No, I meant the subject matter of
the
those.
drawings, yes.
Drawings.
Yeah, the drawings are... they're from the original architectural drawings by Sarah Wigglesworth for the building. So I have there was basically like there's the various floors, and then there's a cross section, and then so I've been working from those.
Are they working drawings or concept drawings?
The two square ones are more working drawings for the site specific piece, which is on the big piece of glass in the sort of centre.
And but it is quite interesting because you produce a lot of work. You seem very sure-footed with the kind of pieces, and yet you risk all the time. You always take the risk of placing quite disparate kinds of works together. You never show that I've ever seen a body of work that's like a group of pieces of work. They're always completely disparate.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be, you know, if there's one of these, then there's one of these. If there's one of those, there's one of these. There's never, you know, you wouldn't walk in and see the brick pieces or the whatever kind of like pieces in this. I find that a very interesting approach, which led you quite open to kind of criticism of like, that you're a butterfly. You know, usually if people make pieces of work that are very different, that's often what they think you are. A butterfly can't concentrate on one thing or another, doesn't have an oeuvre or something to that. But you continuously flout that as a rule. Have you ever had flack for that?
I think it's probably because there's so many artists that do work in that kind of like consistency. You know, they're always kind of, I don't know, if you're a painter, you'll start and do blue paintings, and then you'll, you know, and that's not really a way that I've ever worked. I think because I'm always doing so many things at the same time, that's just kind of the way that I'm used to working, and as and functioning kind of daily, that I'm always doing about 600 things at the same time. So, and following things through to the end too.
And so pieces of work leapfrog each other.
Yeah.
And 90% of what you make, or rather 90% of what you show, involves negotiation, persuasion. You know, can I have that? Can I do this? And when you receive no's, which obviously you do lots of times.
But it's just kind of finding a way around them.
Yeah.
So it's like with the brick piece, whenever I was trying to find all the different bricks, kind of the negotiations with like trying to find the right person on site, or the, you know, it's kind of meeting all those people and then becoming interested in the work, or kind of informing it, or it kind of, because each person that I would meet as well would tell me something about the building site, or about maybe their career in demolishing as well. I've had some really interesting conversations, and like how people, there was this guy that I met in, not Mark, but it was another guy. He wasn't there that day, but he has been doing demolishing for like 20 years, but he really wants to be a teacher, so he was doing that, but also training to be, I don't know, it's just kind of, you kind of find really fascinating things out as well.
And we went to another exhibition not far from here, Katie Cudden's exhibition, and came across this wall, which is a local wall of yours.
Yeah.
Do you have can we just find an image of that? Because it's a...
Yeah, I've got it here.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's there. And can we zoom in or something?
I've got a close-up of it as well.
It's just like every brick in town.
Yeah, because it's the side of a building, so it looks like part of it's been knocked down, but they've kind of built around it. It's on Weber Street, and there's some really nice houses beside it, and then just this half side of a wall.
And it's not just like, I mean, it's got ceramic bricks, the white bricks, but it's got blue ceramic bricks and red ceramic bricks, and it's got kind of London bricks, and then those kind of really crumbly.
Yeah, and some of the wrong way as well. That one that's just kind of sticking out.
Yeah. I mean, how does it feel when you suddenly start finding your work in?
Or things that could look like my work.
Yeah. Do you use it? Do you steal it? Do you have it? Or do you kind of is this permission for doing what you do, or is it that you?
think it's probably a way to frame it in a way, but I'm always on the lookout for things that are like this that don't quite make sense either.
I think we'll just round off for a debate. But like as you begin, not always in the beginning, and not always at the end, it's very interesting how this show's been, you put the works in, where you start with the sky at the bottom.
Yeah.
The first thing you come across is the sky, and as we come up, we come to the moon.
Yeah.
And that you have a really tiny photograph of the moon, so it's almost impossible, first of all, to work out. It's not the first thing, you don't see the moon,
no.
You just see this thing which is...
It looks a bit like a skittle or something, I think, or like or an M&M.
And this thing of the way that that you can have the whole building. I can't wait until you do something in the turbine hall. You know, I just think it would be a breath of fresh air. Does anybody have any questions I'd like to ask?
Where did you learn to make books?
I learned in...
Where did you learn to make books?
I learned in Belgium. I did a piece of work over there in 2007. I was invited to go there, and I did a lot of... It was basically an archaeological site. It was the site of an old Benedictine abbey. So I did a lot of research into this site and found out that in the 1700s they demolished the abbey and then sold off all of the bricks and the building materials. And they actually sent them to Paris and sold them there because it was a Parisian company. And I wanted to, I actually took a brick from London, and that was my foundation stone for this structure, but I was able to use the bricks from the old abbey, and as I was building that I got a little bit of training in bricklaying, so, and also what to use to keep the mortar last a bit longer.
What sort of a mixture of mortar do you recommend?
Well, it depends what you're making. So for the arch, I used I think it was 3-to-1, and then I was a bit worried whenever I got to the centre, so it was sort of like 2.5-to-1. But and that's sand to cement.
Could you say something about scale in your work? Because we were talking about the tiny moon, and then you've done something that's, when it's a performance, it's on the building, but then as a projection or a film, it's also a different scale. And I was wondering about that relationship to the body in terms of architecture and how we experience space.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I think in architecture, obviously, the human scale is really, really important. And, you know, even if you look at how the size of a door, that's built in relation to the body and what size that's going to be. And I don't know, it's kind of like with whenever I was building the arch, it's kind of, in my head, it could have been really big, but I chose to make something that felt like it was a lot more made by a person, if that makes sense, rather than a machine or or something that's being manufactured. So as well, because whenever I did the piece at LCC on the 19th, people were like, "Oh, has it been used by buttons?" Or, you know, because it could have been a lot more mechanical. But I was more interested in it being that it was actually a person or people that were behind there. And if there were mistakes, that's okay, because I didn't want it to look like it was not real, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question? Was it?
I was thinking about this building, and your work here, and it made me think about all the different people who could say my building about this place.
Yeah.
Whether it was the architect or the builders or the owner, or the people who use
the
it.
building.
And I wondered whether you felt that you could say my building about this place, or whether what you've done might affect how other people might feel about the minus of the place.
I don't think I think about it as my building yet, because that's a really difficult question to answer. I think whenever I was installing here, because this is the first really it's such a busy building and it's used by so many people every day, and I think that I find it quite a strange thing, because I'm kind of used to, if I'm doing something, that maybe there's people there, other people installing work, but not kind of dancers using the corridors. And whenever I was doing the piece downstairs, the glass piece, I was on a cherry picker going up and down with my tape, and people were having to step over that. So I was probably invading their space, and they're probably thinking, who's this person blocking the entranceway? So I was probably invading their building too, and probably people that have work here too. So I think I'm interested to see how I can maybe explore that aspect of it with the piece that I'm working with Sarah Wigglesworth, because obviously it's very much her building, but maybe she's let go of it because she's given it over to Siobhan Davies Studios and its users too. But I think it could be a really interesting discussion to kind of have with her too. I don't know if I really answered that.
Well, I don't know what the answer is, but it was just ask the question.
Back to the brick question again. You're using old bricks and they have a certain human fallibility about them. Do you ever use new bricks? That's one part. And is it the humanness of them?
Yeah.
And the scale of the art is a very human scale. You say it's not monumental. It's not particularly architectural. So it's the contact of a fallible material put together in a rather clumsy way, which has a kind of humanity. Is that contra using a new material? And
I think part of for me, using old bricks or kind of bricks that have been part of another structure are really, really important for me, particularly because they've retained the history from another place, or from of other people that have maybe used the building that's been a part of. And it's kind of, whenever this became kind of something that I was really interested in whenever I was collecting all the bricks last year. So the building, whenever I got some bricks from Blackfriars Road, which they're still demolishing actually at the minute, I'm surprised it's taken them quite a long time. But so I got 40 bricks in total from that building. 20 of them were yellow bricks and 20 of them were clay bricks. And they're both very, very different in terms of their kind of material. The yellow ones have the indent kind of like London brick, and the red ones were very much older and weren't as strong either. So you could kind of almost like track the history through that too, even though it was an internal, same building, but it was how that building itself had been changed to as a result of the building process. And I think bricks are really nice objects in terms of their size too. They're just
Just to finish off,
this is really light. I think, Jeffrey, you should explain about
what we're using to try and knock out the projector in case we got lost on this thing. There's nothing worse than kind of trying to find an image with the holiday snaps and all of that sort of stuff. It's does it count as a brick?
I think it's brick dimensions.
Yeah.
But although it's not as heavy as a brick.
No, but in Brixton where they're doing up the garden outside the Tate Library, Brixton used to be cobbled with wood, and so this has come out and it smells of tar and creosote, and it's incredibly light as a brick. But it was the whole of Brixton would have had this as its paving of that particular thing. So it's kind of
Because how did you get this brick?
Again, I just said when they were digging them up, I just said, "Can I have some bricks?" And it's like, some
this
of those
has been our
wooden
prop
things.
for tonight as well.
Yeah.
Although it is really, really light though,
Yeah.
compared
So
to.
you
I'm
must-
used to having a lot heavier bricks.
We think bricks are interesting. Bricks are wonderful. So feel this. And
Yeah.
it's been in front of the... I was nervous that it would get hot and burst into flames, but it's actually quite cool. So,
I just want to hear about in your work I see a lot of play, and everything I look at, I always see the sort of like the two heaters that are dancing together, or the play in the sort of performance as well in the blind building, and also the fun of it. If that is in your mind when you make it, or
Yeah, I think it's very much part of the process of making the work. It's not that I intend to make the work funny, or but I think that I enjoy making it, and
I mean, it's more
part of
intangible.
it's like the play aspect. I kind of like play in my studio, really, and if things go wrong, they go wrong, and I play a bit more. So maybe that's what it is that comes through with the, and also trying things as well. It's just kind of a process of me playing, really.